For those who are used to come to this church, you've probably noticed another few improvements from the last recital, the last organ recital in this church, in particular the hanging of the long expected new chandeliers, and also the new light of the side aisles, which now illuminates in particular the altar of Saint Philomena on my left here, and so I hope for the next recital, I'm not too sure about the next improvement, but it's in my mind already, so it's already being planned. Thank you very much for your presence here, as usual, and a particular thank you to the sisters adorers who have made the whole way from Preston, where they've sung the Mass this morning, and so thank you very much to come and sing in the honor of Our Lady this afternoon. So I've noticed on the program we have got 2 singing of the Magnificat, so you will probably know the words of by heart at the end of this concert and this recital. So thank you very much, dear sisters, for your presence. But I know the sisters, they are never that far from us, because we can feel their prayer even from the other side of the water, if you know what I mean. So the mercy cannot be a barrier. So the prayers of the sisters are greatly and appreciated here in this church.
Welcome on behalf of the Canons and the Sister Adoras. Welcome to the Shrine Church of St. Peter and Paul and St. Philomena. So our recital series continues. Gosh, I'm not quite sure I set all of this up last summer. I didn't think I'd quite expected just how much work I set myself. But here we are at number 7. The end is 9. 3 more for the year. But today we're in March. We're still in Lent. The altar is still vested in purple. But you may notice we have flowers. We don't have relics, but we do have flowers. Because today, the 4th Sunday of Lent is the Tithe Sunday. One of our 2 Sundays we get in the year. We get Gaudete Sunday, the 3rd Sunday in Advent, and we get the Tithe Sunday, the 4th Sunday in Lent, as little reprieves of the penitential time in the build-up to Easter. And a great reprieve we had just 2 days ago, on the 25th of March, when we had the privilege of celebrating the great feast of the Annunciation of Our Lady. That feast which recognises the visit of the angel Gabriel to Mary, letting her know that she was going to become the Mother of God. And Mary responded with her great reward, fiat, I will. And the words that she utters at that moment have become for us the words of the Magnificat, the Church's great gospel canticle which we sing every evening And so because we've had this feast recently, I thought there would be a great opportunity for March is to theme our music around that of the office of Vespers, the church's prayer in the evening, and for Our Lady herself. So the concert sort of falls into 3 or 4 sections, depending on how you want to look at it. The first one, which we'll start with, we are going to take you to the court of Louis XIV. Imagine yourself in that rich Baroque chapel in Versailles, listening to the music. And we're going to hear the music of 2 things. We're going to hear the Gregorian chant melody of Mode 1. The church has 8 principal modes, keys, you might think, for its music. We're going to hear some of the Magnificat sung to tone 1, but you're only going to hear half of it sung. So you may remember if you were here back in September or you were here back in January, we talked in those programs about an unusual regulation the church had, which developed from the 17th century. There was a new codification of liturgical law published in 1600 called the Chorale Prelude. Everything is Latin, of course, we are the Latin church. Essentially, the bishop's ceremony. And that set out the rules and regulations for all aspects of the liturgy, but including how music is used within it. And one of the things that adopted, which had already become very common in France particularly, was the role of the organ literally replacing the words sung by the choir. So French organ music is composed really of hundreds and hundreds of short, what we call versets, very small pieces designed to just replace these 1 verses of the song, 1 verse of the canticle, 1 verse of the hymn, as they are being sung through the liturgy. So with the help of our sister Augurs, we're going to take you through the Magnificat to Mode 1, but interspersed with the music of Jean-François Donzren, court organist to Louis XIV. So you'll hear the Magnificat in tone, first of all by the choir. The organ then replaces the rest of the first verse. The choir then sings verse 2. Donzren will write some music through me for verse 3, and so on and so on. So this is how it was commonly performed right up until 1911, when this was forbidden by a papal bull of Pope Pius IX. So this was common for hundreds of years, but we very rarely get the opportunity to hear it again. So this is Jean-François Donzren's Magnificat in the first way, with the help of the sisters singing.
My
think it's really interesting, this idea of literally the organ speaking on behalf of the people, literally speaking on behalf of the choir. So that was very common, and in earlier concerts you'll have heard us do that with the ordinary of the Mass of Couperin back in September, and with the Te Deum back in January. So it's a really common idea. The French Baroque organ music, as it is, littered with these lots of small little versets, all designed to just fill in repeatedly. There are lots of interesting documents for the period where organists complain that they're having to play 150, 250 different pieces a week to be able to keep up with replacing everything. And it was quite common that organists held positions for quarters of the year. So you might be organist at Notre Dame for January to March. You might be organist at Notre Dame for September to November. Sort of an interesting idea. I should try floating that by the corrector here. So we'll stay in France. We'll move to the Cathedral of Grass, the heart of the Champagne region, for some music by Nicola De Grinny. We've heard a little of him 2 or 3 concerts ago. His music's in some ways slightly strange. It's unusual, it's certainly unique within the French Baroque repertoire. It's quite richly developed, it's highly ornamented. You'll have heard even in that which I've just played, lots of trills, lots and lots of shakes going on in the manual parts. But Nicolas de Grinny, again, the same sort of tradition, so he writes lots of verses, but this time for the Ave Maris Stella, the great hymn of Our Lady which we sing at Vespers throughout the year, so this constant focus day on Vespers and Our Lady. We'll ask the sister adorers will very kindly sing the whole office hymn for us, so you're used to the melody and you can hear it in the context it would be heard. But then 2 works from Nicolas de Grinny, both based on the plain song melody that the sisters will sing, the hymn tune Ave Maris Stella. The first of these is what we call a plein jeu. Plein jeu just means full stops. We're going to use all of the mixture stops and the principal stops on the organ, a very bright and rich sound. And you'll hear the melody of the Ave Maris Stella in the feet in very long, slow notes. We call that a cantus firmus, when the melody is presented long and slow in the pedal. You'll hear it later in some German works too. And then the second piece by de Grinny from his same book, Livre d'Orgue, is a 4-part fugue. Fugues are quite relatively unusual at this point in the French Baroque period. Certainly the way that de Grinny writes them is unusual. So we instead of, you're going to hear lots of fugues from Buxtehude at the end of today, where you'd hear all the manual parts together on the same manual, on the same sound. Even the pedal is on a similar sound. Here he contrasts very different tone colours. So the 2 uppermost voices of the fugue are on a stop which we call the cornet, very distinctive sound. You'll hear that start the fugue. The left hand is on the cromon, which is sort of a fat Baroque clarinet, which you'll have heard little excerpts of in the Dondria. And then the 4th part down in the feet on the flutes. So 2 works by Nicolas de Grinny, but first the melody on which those 2 works are based is the hymn for Vespers for Our Lady, Ave Maris Stella. absolutely tied to the plain song for which it's there, and all united together in service directly of that liturgy. We're going to move to out of France and to Germany, to the music of three composers you'll have heard repeatedly at these recitals, of Johann Pachelbel, of Johann Sebastian Bach, and of Dietrich Buxtehude. Now, unusually, we normally save the great master Johann Sebastian for last. Unusually, I'm going to give that pride of place. I don't know where the rector is, but he'd be delighted. Pride of place goes to Dietrich Buxtehude today for his huge work based on the Magnificat, which I'll come to shortly. But first, three chorale preludes, two by Johann Pachelbel and one by Johann Sebastian Bach, on the chorale Meine Seele erhebt den Herrn. Now, if your German is not as good as mine, that translates as my soul doth magnify the Lord. So you see the unity straight away. So this is the Lutheran German translation directly of the canticle from Luke's Gospel of Our Lady, which you've already heard. Now, unusually, the Lutheran Church, the Lutheran Church often lifted music from the Roman Church, often based its new hymn tunes directly on plain song that had gone before. Unusually in this one, it does use plain song, but the plain song it uses is not actually connected to what the music was used within the Roman Church. So I told you earlier a little white lie. I said that the music of the Roman Church is based around 8 modes or 8 keys, each with a different character. Now there is a 9th, the tonus peregrinus, the wandering tone. Peregrinus comes from the same root which we get pilgrimage from. And it's called the wandering tone, the tonus peregrinus, because the first, if you remember when the sisters were singing earlier, they sing sort of in 2 parts. They sing the first half of a verse, take a breath, and sing the second. And the main reciting note in both halves is the same. But in the tonus peregrinus, it isn't. The note on which they sing wanders, literally. Now, the tonus peregrinus is not used often in the Roman Church, but you do get to hear it every week at Vespers. And for those of you who are staying, and you will hear Vespers sung later, the 5th psalm at Vespers on a Sunday is always sung to the tonus peregrinus in Exit to Israel. And so the Lutherans had understood that the Magnificat, the Song of Mary, is directly connected to the office of Vespers, and you'll hear that sung later today, of course, it's sung every day. And that the tonus peregrinus is connected to Vespers as well. Lutherans joined those two things together, and the melody of the tonus peregrinus psalm chant becomes the hymn tune which the Lutherans, to this day, sing the words of the Magnificat to. So they've taken two disparate things, but both inexorably connected to the office of Roman Vespers, and made their own interpretation of it with that. So to make sure you understand what's happening with the chorale melody when you hear it, the sisters will now very kindly sing us through the Magnificat, but to this tonus peregrinus. Notice that the first half and second half of each verses are recited on a different note. And then I will play you 3 chorale preludes, 2 short ones by Pachelbel, very short, but they show his style. He's from southern Germany, and so he's influenced much more by the music of Frescobaldi and Vivaldi in Italy. A very simple style in the first one, and you'll hear what the sisters have been singing the psalm tune to at the top of the manual parts in the first one, and in the second one you'll hear it in the pedals as a cantus firmus. And then the third one, I will play you Johann Sebastian Bach's version of the same thing. This is a much grander scale work, as you might expect from the great master, a 4-voice fugue based on that same melody, but he wraps it all together, of course, with a moment of genius, where just at the end, he gives you this big thundering cantus firmus in the pedal, which reinforces that melody for you one last time. So this is the sisters singing the Magnificat to the tonus peregrinus, and then 3 chorale preludes based on that same tune.
Thank you.
So Bach's Fugal Magnificat is doing incredibly well amongst all this BBB 733. So as I said earlier, unusually, you won't have enough in these programmes. Pride of Place at the end goes to Dietrich Buxtehude. Pride of Place at the end goes to Dietrich Buxtehude, the great organist to whom Johann Sebastian Bach looked up for much of his life, including famously walking the 250 miles to hear Buxtehude practice and to receive lessons from him. Buxtehude at the same time tried to marry off his daughter to Johann Sebastian Bach in exchange for him taking on the role of Kapellmeister at Buxtehude's church when he retired. Bach did not take up the offer of either Master of Music in Buxtehude's church or of marrying his daughter. But Bach, of course, went on to have 2 wives of his own and 23 children. Not surprised it had 2 wives. I suspect he wore the first one out. So Buxtehude is this fantastic organist to whom Bach looks up. His style is, you can hear Bach in his style, but it's also a slightly different sound world. It's much freer, it's much more rhapsodic. I think I use in the program notes the phrase stilus fantasticus in Latin, so a fantastic. It's very, very free, where Bach, as you've just heard in his fugue, is very measured, very precise. Buxtehude is no less precise in his fugue writing, and you're going to hear about 5 different fugues in this work of his, the Magnificat Primitoni. But they're rather freer. There's a rather sort of greater spirit of joie de vivre, if I can use the French, about his writings. So lots of chorale preludes from Buxtehude as a lifetime's work as Kapellmeister up in the north of Germany. We don't really know for exactly what purpose this Magnificat Primitoni is written. It's definitely in the first mode, hence Primitoni, so the first Magnificat we heard with the D'Andrea earlier on. It's in that same key, but it's built in 8 sections, kind of 4 very big sections really. It's sort of 4 lumps of 2, very free, rhapsodic, improvisatory style introductions, followed by very formal and quite busy 4-part fugues. It's a good workout for me. If you've come to watch my feet on the camera, then the Buxtehude is the one to watch. But because it's in 8 parts, it's not obviously clear that he meant this to be used antiphonally in the way that we saw the French did. Because essentially, depending on how you want to look at it, we either have too many movements or not enough. Now, there is a second work of Buxtehude's on various Magnificat preludes. That gives us another 4. We're not going to play those today. But we do know that the Lutheran Church did carry over this tradition we saw, which started in France in the 16th century, was codified in the Roman Church in the 17th. This idea that the organ replaces for alternate verses. We know that the Lutheran Church took that tradition on. So it's possible that in the week-by-week liturgies up in Leipzig, Buxtehude may well have used varying bits of these works to interpose them between verses of the Magnificat. But we can't be entirely certain. So because of that, I'm just going to give you the Magnificat Primitoni in its whole. 8 individual parts, as I said, in sort of 4 broad sweeps. It's a hugely fun work to play. It's a good physical workout. But this is Buxtehude's own liturgical offering. His own improvisation, really, on the text of the Magnificat. So this is the last thing I'll play. Before I do, I'll just remind you, as always, well, first of all, to say thank you very much indeed for coming, and I hope that you're enjoying these. It's nice to see those of you who are coming back repeatedly, and I hope you're having a good history lesson across the year. For those of you who are first-time visitors, you're very welcome, and I hope to see you again. Your feedback forms are very important to us and the National Lottery, who are helping to fund these recitals and the restoration of the building. So do please complete those for us, and I'll join you for tea and coffee afterwards, once we've got through Buxtehude's Magnificat. to be honest. Maybe you understand the point. Anyway, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Christian. What a better occasion,
what a better occasion, or what a better way to celebrate this this beautiful Letare Sunday in the midst of Lent, with all these flowers and all these lights and all this music. So thank you again. You are literally a huge bonus, if I may say that, for our church and for our liturgies on Sundays and main feast days as well. You have been quite busy, you know. Christian has spent a few days with us here at the presbytery, because we had to celebrate the feast of the Annunciation. So you have first Vespers and then the feast, and then you stay for the Saturday, of course, because you are not going back home, and then you stay for Mass and Vespers and recitals. So I think we can have a separate, a proper bedroom for you, although you've got your habits and you're part of the family, as you know, and you can feel that. So thank you very much, Christian, and we'll see you for the next recital for Music for Easter. That's the theme. So wonderful. Sadly, I won't be there, but I would watch from over the continent and seas, probably with a time difference. And thank you, dear sisters, again for coming. I've never heard the Magnificat in tonus peregrinus. I've tried in the car when I return this afternoon, when I return to New Brighton. I've tried to sing it what I was driving, the tonus peregrinus. It didn't work. It didn't work because it's the difference of notes, you know, between the first part and then the second part is most unusual, as you said. So it didn't work. So thank you very much. It is a performance. That's to my opinion. So thank you again. And I'm sure we've got another 3 concerts, recitals left. So you have to choose at least one of them and you return. This is not an order, but this is a strong invitation, right? So you know what I mean. So thank you again. And the voices of our sisters, you can see they are really perfectly balanced and in good harmony. And it's a bit of a change from the voices of the canons, you know. But we do our best, but we are not at that level. Thank you for your presence, your feedback, your friendship, and your prayers as well, as we are walking together towards Easter and the resurrection of the Blessed Lord. And I think everybody would be welcome in a minute for a nice tea and coffee whilst we set up everything for Vespers, because you have been very kindly invited to hear the Tonus Peregrinus for the 5th Psalm of Vespers in Exit to Israel. Thank you again, and God bless you.